Innovation is in our veins. Soon the whole world will know our names. Sharing our knowledge and freedom reign. We here for the people, you know it's our way. Setting foundations is part of the dream. It doesn't matter if you're new to the game. Listen up now, cause we all gon' say, elevate, 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 higher, elevate, 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 higher. We gon' rise up, we all gon' shine. Work through adversity, stay on the grind. Elevate, elevate, this is our time. Elevate, elevate.
Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, everyone. It's so great to have you all on one more time. It is Tuesday, and we're excited to be on with you on this beautiful Tuesday night. So much to get into, and we're excited to get into all of it. Well, first off, as the title says, the NDP went woke. And have they gone broke? Well, it seems like the National Post has uncovered some details about the financials of the federal party, and they're not looking good. So here's the thing. If you're feeling broke, don't worry. Some of our major federal party in this country is also broke too. So, hey, I guess we're all in this together, right? So we can touch on that story, as well as we'll be touching on the post-mortem of another Truth and Reconciliation Day has come and passed. It was a pretty spicy one, what I could see on the social medias, and we'll be talking about that from the perspective of some of my Indigenous friends and some of those who, aren't, and really upset with the day as a whole. So we'll be talking about those details as well, what happened. And last but not least, we'll be talking about voting, polling, and the trends and the way the winds of change in this country these days. We'll be talking about all of it, and we're excited to be with you tonight. So, but first off, before we get into any of that, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. We just launched our newscast. No, just kidding. Our newsletter. We're excited to have launched it. First issue came out this past week. And if you are interested, feel free to go to our website and plug in your email, and we'll make sure you are on the list to be able to get the stories that we can't fit into the show throughout the week, and making sure you're getting it right to your inbox every Friday. So that is that. We're excited to be here with you. And before we continue on, we got some stuff in the news. So first off, some things that we have really set off today, which were pretty wild and need to be discussed. First off, Iran has launched missiles that have hit Israel. And they have fired 200 ballistic missiles and about 100 cruise missiles. And it's not one of those like, hey, we sent a bunch of missiles at Israel and the Iron Dome intercepted them. No, those missiles, a lot of them touched down in Israel and blew up a lot of things and caused a lot of damage. So that war and that conflict has been escalating and has escalated to another degree, whereas Israel is fighting like 3 or 4 front war at this point. Thus is why they require help from the West, because they're fighting Hezbollah, they're fighting ISIS, they're fighting Hamas, they're fighting Iran, who's funding these groups, and also try and deal with Lebanon. It's like there's so much going on. There's a lot of chaos. I have friends who are currently in Lebanon who, unfortunately, aside from a couple messages here and there, I just haven't heard from them. I know they're alive, which I'm glad to hear, but it's terrifying what's happening over there right now. And not stoked about it, really bummed about it, not happy with what's going on, and thus why I'm a huge believer and why I keep advocating for leadership of the country down south that holds all the weapons to have a leader in power who doesn't instigate these things and doesn't allow them to happen and tries to have world peace, because peace is good for us all. So giving our thoughts over there to those whose lives are affected by this mess. As well as on top of that, the missiles weren't enough. There was also a mass shooting in Tel Aviv, Israel as well. That took a lot of lives additionally. So chaos just erupting over there. I thought it should be discussed. That's what's happening. Secondly, Ontario has raised their minimum wage to $17.20. Good for minimum wage workers. I think that's fantastic. I think it's good because obviously we've seen inflation take off so much, and we've been seeing a lot of issues around cost of living, being able to afford housing, this, that, the other. This is good for minimum wage workers. It's important to see that minimum wage rise. However, Minimum wage is a really good indicator of how bad inflation is, to a degree. It's not a perfect barometer by any stretch, but it gives you an idea of how bad it is. If they're raising minimum wage that high, inflation is much worse than that. So let's give you an idea. It's 2024. Ontario's just raised their minimum wage to $17.20. When I was in high school, 9th grade, I had a job. I was being paid minimum wage. I was at the age of 14. So we're talking 18 years ago at this point. 18 years ago, minimum wage was at $7.20 in Ontario. That gives you an idea of where we're at. It is over 18 years. Minimum wage has gone up $10 an hour. That gives you an idea with how bad inflation has gotten in this country. Unreal. People are excited. Again, as I said, minimum wage workers, it's important that they're able to at least have a job that can, purchase them things. But dang, that gives you an idea how bad inflation has become in this country. So we move on. Last but not least, in terms of what's in the media, what's in the news, the Conservatives have spent $150,000, $150K, just this past week on Facebook ads, whereas the NDP and Liberals combined have spent a combined $6,000 on Facebook ads. Well, Josh, why are we talking about this? Why are you bringing this up? Well, it's more of a barometer and a bit of a showing of how much money the Conservative Party has right now. They are garnering a lot of interest and a lot of excitement, and it shows in their ad spend. Liberals and NDP, well, we're about to find out NDP don't have no money. And if it's any show, maybe the Liberals are struggling for cash too. They keep talking about, we keep having we keep raising funds. We have all these great fundraisers happening because of things that are happening in the House. Maybe they're running out of money too. Conservatives are doubling down on a lot of their ads, and you're going to see even more of it as we go into this next year. As we move into at some point within the next year, we're going to see an election here, whether it be in October of next year or it comes sooner than that. Regardless, you're going to see the Conservatives ramp it up. $150,000 on Facebook ads alone this past week, whereas the Liberals and NDP both spent closer to $6,000. It was something like $2,800 for the Liberals, $2,600 for the NDP, something along those lines. Crazy. So we move on. Things to keep in mind. So September 30th hit. Another Truth and Reconciliation Day has passed. It is a divisive topic, unfortunately, here in this country. Why is it divisive? Well, there's some who think Truth and Reconciliation Day is just a holiday designed to get people to hate white people. There's others who believe that it's important to recognize the horrors that have taken place in this country over residential schools and the impact it's had on the Indigenous population. It was a spicy time on social media. There was a lot of things that were being said, a lot of things that were uttered, and I saw it from both camps, understandably so. It was a very heated day. Admittedly, I didn't see any of the social media posts until today, October 1st. I stayed off social media yesterday. Didn't really get into any of it. I'm glad I didn't. And so, to be able to tell you where I'm coming from on this, well, let's just tell you what I did on that day. My wife and I went down to one of the events downtown here in Halifax, just see what was going on. Went to the Friendship Center here downtown, and they put on a great event. Just really, it was more so designed for kids. Lots of activities, things that were being done. But it was good just kind of hear different stories being told of what has taken place with their culture, with their families, with their traditions. You know, it wasn't a hate the white man kind of situation. It was actually a very, for using buzzwords, it was a very inclusive atmosphere. I didn't feel alienated in any stretch of the imagination. From anything, I felt very welcomed. And I felt welcome to learn more about their culture and what they're doing and what they're wanting to do and how they want to self-determine what they do with their communities. I thought it was a pretty constructive time. I enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed it. We had a good time. So when I came home today and saw what happened on social media, I was like, whoa. And this is where I'm going to get in trouble. Because I dare empathize with both sides. As things have gotten very hostile in political circles these days, a lot of people get even more mad when you try to, quote unquote, both sides it. There is no excuse for what they did. There is no excuse for what that person did. Josh, if you try to both sides this, you're as bad as them. Whoever them may be. But guess what? That's what I'm going to do right now. So what are we talking about here? What's happening? Well, we'll take an example of an individual who is seen as on the right. Greg Wycliffe. He did a whole video. He did a whole walking head video through U of T, downtown Toronto, talking about how much he really does not like Truth and Reconciliation Day. Views it as a holiday that was used and designed to hate white people and make it okay for everyone to hate white people. And it was about a 9.5 minute video. And he went down on kind of what, the lack of bodies, quote unquote, that were not found at residential schools, went into a history of the Iroquois and things that they may or may not have done, and so on and so forth. The whole video was designed to discredit Indigenous people in a lot of ways, or more so at least to promote that we shouldn't be hating white people for something they didn't have really any part in this day and age. So, as they say. That was the video. And obviously you have those comments on it. And then you have people who are not in support of a video like that who are also commenting on it. It was a bit of a battle. It was a bit of a bloodbath in the comments, I have to say. But there was one comment I came across, and I have to say, this is where I side on it, and I 100% agree with it. The person said, our government did take their children and try to indoctrinate them with values not approved by their parents. In the same way, their current government is trying to do the same to all of our kids. You cannot discount it at all because of the lies of a few. And I get it. I get where all this comes from. I think a day like Truth and Reconciliation Day is very important. I think it's important to validate those who have been invalidated for so very long. I learned about residential schools when I was in middle school. Thought it was just kind of part of the curriculum. I'm like, oh, didn't know that happened. Learned about it in the 7th grade. But learned it's not really taught all that widely in a lot of our education systems here in Canada. I think it was important for people to learn about it. And it's not something, from my perspective, that like you have to own as a white person. You did this. And it's like, bro, I was born in 1992. Yes, one of the last residential schools was closed in that decade, but I had nothing to do with it operating. I didn't tell them to do it. Like I was born in 1992, man. I barely had a collective conscience until like the late 90s. So it was just kind of like, okay, that's not on me. However, I can acknowledge, and I do have friends who have had families who were impacted by the residential school system. And it wasn't a positive impact. So I can empathize with where they're coming from. And I think a day like this is important to be able to kind of talk about these issues, to talk about the tensions that are there. And if I'm being honest, the events I went to didn't really even talk about residential schools. They're just talking about their traditions and what they want to continue teaching their families and how they want to raise their kids. I was there for 3 hours. I think I may have heard residential schools maybe brought up twice, only talking about, yeah, my grandfather was in a residential school, had a really hard time, was abused, X, Y, Z. Like, that was the discussion. That was the context. So to have Greg Wycliffe come out and say, well, it's just a day to hate white people, all the churches that were burned down in the name of this. Dude, I get it. I understand. I understand the origins of this day. What do you mean by the origins, Josh? Well, what I mean by it is, personally, I believe that I think there was information leaked about a specific residential school with, that was said that had dead bodies of residential school students at it. And that knowledge was used to sow divide in the Canadian culture between Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people. And from that situation arose this day, Truth and Reconciliation Day. It caused a lot of pain and hurt and suffering, bringing this news to light. And for me, it was just a little too purposeful for it to just be done and a great journalist really uncovered this. And it's like, I've kind of known about residential schools for a long time. Now it's just coming to the surface right before an election. Odd. Weird. I don't think it's a coincidence. So yeah, I think the origins of how the day came about were misguided. Disagree with them. Actually, I think I should tell you of how misguided it was. Where was Justin Trudeau on the first Truth and Reconciliation Day? Surfing in Tofino. Tells you what you need to know about that. So as I said, the origins of how Truth and Reconciliation Day came about, I think were misguided. But it doesn't take away from the fact of what has happened in the history. A people that have gone invalidated for so long about what transpired between the government and their people is now given the time of day, is now given a light. I don't think that's a bad thing. Did it start with, I think, dishonest origin and dishonest gain? Yes. But what the devil intended for bad, God intended it for good, is a scripture that comes to mind for me. There are bad things that happen, but good outcomes that can come from them. And I think this is one of them. I think this day is really important to validate a people who have felt invalidated for a long time. And it's not a bad thing to ingratiate yourself in other cultures, to hear them out, to hear what values they have. I think Jennifer L. is a great friend of the show, who is one of these people for me in my life. She taught me a lot about her culture and where she comes from. And she's an amazing advocate for them. And to see the hate that she got on social media yesterday was just mind-boggling to me. And I get where it's coming from. Because people come from the perspective of how this day started. It started as potentially a way to divide people. And that's where these people are coming from when they hate on people like Jennifer L. So you're just doing the government's bidding. And it's like, bro, what? The things you're complaining about, like, I don't know, mandated vaccines, or I don't know, things that are taught in your kids' schools that you don't approve of, or the government just doing things without your permission. You seem to really hate all of that. Yet that's kind of what happened with the residential schools. Can you see the connection and at least extend some empathy of where people are coming from? I get that from my perspective, it's a trauma response. The government's done a lot of jacked up things that have come to light here in the past 5 years that we are now become more and more cognizant of. But because of what they did, like, you should be able to relate more to what happened with residential schools if the government overreach. I think Pierre Poilievre's speech on this that he put out for yesterday was spot on. How government overreach ravaged a people. that is something we should be able to all align with. But that's the problem now. The origins of this day, it being used as a mechanism to divide people. The problem with that is you now are still allowing it to be a tool to divide people rather than it bringing you closer together with your brothers and sisters here in this country. I'll leave that at that. That's my diatribe, my 20-minute diatribe on that. I get where people are coming from. But try to look past it. Try to look past the lies that were spewed to start. Because that's the one thing that people keep bringing up. The bodies at the residential school, that was a lie. Those were all lies. I'll be frank with you. No one I know in my circles is saying that happened. So take the bodies, where the bodies are at, where are the bodies, and take that and separate it from the residential school situation. This is still being investigated. We can talk about that another day. The residential schools still happened, and they had a negative impact on people. The least you can do is hear your people out. Get to know them. I talk about on the show all the time. Love your neighbors. Love people right next to you. It's a lot harder to be judgmental on people when you know them. So take the time out. Because this spun out, all the situation that happened yesterday, this spun out into more government overreach, which I think is interesting. Came across this tweet, this post. We have a right to be protected from hate speech, Tanya says. And she was retweeting a post coming from a woman named Leah that said, this is exactly why Bill C-413 is necessary. Survivors need to be protected from hate speech. We have a responsibility to collectively protect the stories of survivors. And she posts these photos of a shirt and another photo corroborating the Every Child Matters message, saying, where are the bodies? For one, and the second one saying, not one child found. It's been a very interesting conversation. Obviously, these are pretty offensive posts. And Bill C-413, what is that? Josh, what is Bill C-413? Well, it's a private member's bill that was brought forward, and it's an act to amend the criminal code to have a promotion of hatred. Sorry, it's an act to amend the criminal code. This enactment amends the criminal code to create an offense of willfully promoting hatred against Indigenous people by condoning, denying, downplaying, or justifying the Indian residential school system in Canada through statements communicated other than in a private conversation. As much as I disagree with these statements and don't think they're proper, I can't get on board with this message of policing speech. People said some pretty heinous things yesterday to some of my friends. But they're not advocating to censor you. They just think you're an idiot. We can't have any more of these types of bills going through. I hate that that's the solution for many. It's people I dislike. People said some disrespectful things, disgusting things to me. We need to shut them down. I can't get on board with that either. Let people talk. I'm a huge advocate for it because at least you know where they stand. If you allow things just to fester in the quiet, they get a lot worse. But I get where it comes from. You want to shy away. You want to close off anything that really offends your sensibilities. In this case, this is one of those, and I totally understand why. But putting bills forward to enact law to essentially prosecute people like this is not the solution. It's not the answer. It is kind of interesting, though. If you want to take a look at the bill, it is over here on the Parliament website. Bill C-413, enact to amend the criminal code, promotion of hatred against Indigenous people. And you can read through it of what they want to do. Can't say I'm a fan of it. Not a fan of the messaging of some of the people that were posting on social media yesterday. But that's why I keep walking by. How you doing? Keep it moving. I'm a huge proponent of that. But that is that. We will move on. I love you guys. I think you guys are awesome. It's a great show so far. And also want to shout out, thank you for still I know how I ended off last episode. Like, oh man, I haven't really felt like myself. Where? I appreciate all the message that came through. I wasn't doing it for the pity. I wasn't doing it for, oh man, I suck. I need some loving. It was just, just a reality I was facing. But at the same time, grateful to those who took their time out to send me an email or send the show a message, whatever have you, to let me know we're doing good. Numbers are rising. We're here for it. We're excited. And we're pumped about it. But we move on. Onward we go. We got broke parties here in this country. Some lighter reading. Why isn't the NDP triggering an election? Well, they can't afford one. The party is so broke they'd struggle just to cover the travel expenses of the leader. Unfortunately, National Post article is behind a paywall. However, there's an interesting tidbit that came out of it through Canada Proud posted. Jagmeet Singh's NDP possess less than $300,000 in cash on hand while being nearly $7 million in debt. The party reportedly blew most of their money promoting Singh in the lead up to the 2021 election, in which they gained a single seat. There's a lot going wrong for this party. One, you have Jagmeet, who just really obviously is struggling. Spends more money on himself than his own party, it seems, these days. But he wants his pension. The NDP clearly have no money. That's why they've not triggered an election, because they can't afford one. They can't even afford to move their leader around the country to meet different people. Yikes. I would have to say, I don't know. I'm getting more personal at this point, but I just really don't like how the NDP have run things. I don't like how Jagmeet has gone about his business. Not a huge fan. I can tell that he's just doing it for himself. He's so in it for himself, and he claims to be for the regular working person, and he keeps doing all the things that show that he's not. He's a fake. He's a fraud. Can't say that in the House, but I can say it here on this podcast. $7 million in debt. Only $300K in hand. Imagine what they'd do to your country. Trudeau's bad enough. Imagine if this guy was in charge. At least there's some checks and balances that have to be taken into account with the actual party itself. Whereas you can just hide behind debt when you're running a country, as Trudeau's tried to. It's interesting what's going on with Jagmeet overall. This news coming to light, not a surprise. This just makes everything make more sense. Obviously, there's just so many different narratives that I think all have a piece in him not voting. Voting in line with the Liberals. It all makes sense. Man wants his pension. They don't have money to run for an election bid. Thus, they will get toast. This is another interesting part of what's going on with this party. Jagmeet Singh's NDP headquarters in Burnaby just expensed $143,000 in the last financial quarter to his constituency office. However, the office is locked and the lights are off. There's a note on the door that has a phone number, but no one answers it and voicemails are not returned. How and where is this money being spent? And this individual, Alex Zoltan, posts this video 30 seconds long, going to the NDP headquarters.
So exactly as I suspected.
Doors are locked.
Regular office hours have changed. Technically, this should be open.
And this note says, we are currently not supporting walk-ins, only by appointment. Please call or email us. Okay? Like that's, for party headquarters, that's kind of crazy. Typically, they take walk-ins all the time. So if you have so much support in your constituency, why would you not?
But no one is here. The lights are not on. The door is not open. So the door is quite dirty. And no one seems to be around. So that does confirm my suspicions.
And who knows what's actually going on here? Maybe this guy showed up at 4 o'clock on a Sunday and trying to make it look like no one's there. Who actually knows? We'll find out shortly, I'm sure. It still looks bad. That one note, that's proof enough for me. Call or email us if you want to get a hold of us. We don't take walk-ins. Shows you the political climate where it's at, how people are very unpleased with him or displeased with him. Jagmeet has to know. No one likes him. He won't get reelected. He's at risk of losing his own riding. Want proof? Well, here's the latest polls. Burnaby Central, 34%, 34%. These are the polls. He's in neck and neck with the Conservatives in his riding right now. Neck and neck. The Liberals trending down 25%. If you go to the odds of him winning, he's at 44%. Conservatives are 56% likelihood of him winning. Of his own riding. So all these things are coming to conjunction and coming together. He's broke. His party's broke. And the odds of him winning are very, very slim. Are getting slimmer by the day, I should say. He's got to hold on for that pension. It's kind of crazy what's taking place. It's all just a big storm for the NDP right now. So that's when you look at what's happening in question period, why you see what's happening in the House. It's all one big show. They don't care about you. They only care about themselves, as has been seen. People are suffering. People are struggling. And they won't just pull the trigger to allow an election to take place and let people have a voice in who leads them next. They keep holding on. As we've seen these different non-confidence votes go through the House, we see what's happened. It's not working. Many politicians are voting in favor to support the Liberals. It's all one big ploy to save their pensions, from my perspective. It's very interesting what's happening. Last but not least, we'll share this as well. Mark Holland was asked, as the Liberal MP, of why he doesn't think election needs to take place.
Is it possible to reach some kind of deal, given the amount of money that's involved in raising these payments for seniors?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that what is being looked at is the needs of the entire country. And we have to look, when we think of seniors, we've done an enormous amount, be it dental care or what we've done for increasing OAS and GIS. But, you know, in terms of what we're going to do next, we have to do kind of a mixture of working with parliamentarians, because we're in a minority government. We have to work with all parliamentarians, and then be responsible with the public purse. I would say on an overall basis, my instinct is that Canadians want this parliament to continue to function. They elected, you know, parties for what they perceive to be a 4-year period, and they're not interested in us finding divisions. They're interested in us finding common ground. That's what we're trying to do.
Mark Holland, everyone. That's the Liberal messaging right there. People want to stay in for the full 4 years. People are not interested in an election. They want us to have common ground, not divisions. Oh, man. That clown from Oshawa. This is the messaging, though. Keep gaslighting us, thinking we don't want an election, so that you can stay in power for as long as you possibly can, because you know you're going to be out of a job. Liberals are about to get absolutely swept. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough. Tough to be a Liberal MP, man. Going to be a tough time. It's a wild time to be alive. Last but not least, sorry, I forgot there's one last thing we got to share too. This is just kind of an interesting poll being shown. Omni News put an immigrant survey out of voting intentions amongst the immigrant population. 44% want Pierre Poilievre, 26% want Justin Trudeau, 19% want Jagmeet Singh. This poll was conducted between August 28th and September 9th. 44% Pierre leads amongst the immigrant population. Must not be as racist as you guys like to make them sound, huh? Wild. I'll be interested to see if they continue to conduct this poll throughout the next 6 months, and seeing how it changes and how it maneuvers. It's a wild, wild time. It's crazy. Thanks for joining me for another episode. It was great to see you, be with you one more time. You know, I'll see you again Thursday. A lot is going to transpire within the next 48 hours. I'm pretty convinced, and looking forward to dropping it all on you there. Our wildcard segment for today. Well, let's take a look.
I'm so sorry. I gotta ask. Can I get a picture?
I'm sorry. Come on.
Okay, yeah. Ready? Do I have consent? Yes or no? Consent?
Yeah.
All right, bet.
Yeah.
So, like, if you cheat on Call of Duty, would you cheat on me?
I don't cheat in Call of Duty.
Okay, that's not my question, though. Would you cheat on me if I gave you a chance?
If you gave me a chance.
If I gave you a chance.
If you gave me a chance.
Yeah, here. Like, I'll give you a chance right now to put your number in.
I have a girlfriend.
You're gay?
So there's some type of gaming convention, and you know, this woman is a streamer of some sort. I'm not familiar with her myself, and this man obviously is working his game on her. That was an iconic response. Could I get your number? I have a girlfriend. Oh, you're gay? Oh, I think a lot of straight people on both sides can understand that feeling. I've heard it happen to many friends who found someone very attractive and learned that they were gay. And I was like, well, dang, that stinks. It was fun to watch it all happen in real time. So, love you all. The thing I love about the show, I was talking to some of my conservative friends because they were asking more about the Reg situation. And they said, it's crazy that's happening to you because you really are middle of the road for the most part. A lot of my conservative friends really get upset with me because they don't think I go far enough. Obviously, what was, I'm sure I upset some people with the first topic tonight. But I'm a huge proponent and believer. And the truth lies somewhere in the middle. And hearing people out and validating where they're coming from, I think is really important to bring people together. And that is something this show will always be about. So if you want someone to tell you everything you want to hear, make you feel better about yourself, there are a plethora of shows on YouTube for either side. Go have fun. Knock yourself out. Go live in your delusion. Most people don't view it that way, though. So be careful. Be careful working in your echo chambers there, bud. Oh, love you all. Whatever it is you're doing, whether you be going to work, working out, or having a grand old time hanging out with family. Whatever it is you're doing, wherever you are, I love you. I'm out. Peace.